Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and this is the Waiver Wire Show. And to help us get through all the names this week in the NFL we're going to need for Week 8, it is Derek Brown, DBro, the King of Bros, and Pat Fitzmaurice. Patty, I'm sorry about your Milwaukee Brewers. They got Otani'd, and they got Otani'd very hard. I just want to say, shout out to you. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that in your whole life? I know it's a football show, but I mean, guy going out there, strike out 10 guys, hitting 3 home runs. Just another day at the office for that guy. How do you take that as a Brewers fan? You just kind of shrug it off and go, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, when down 3-0, you might as well, you're going down to the Dodgers anyway at 3-0. You might as well watch the single greatest one-game performance in baseball history, probably. And all 3 of those home runs crushed. The second one was, I think they gave the distance at 462 feet. And I was like, really? That was it? Because it seemed like it went about 562. I mean, Otani was just insane.
We're just so used to seeing you wear the Brewers hat on the show. And I noticed today we didn't have it. So I just wanted to...
Still proud of the season. Proud of the season. I have no idea how the Brewers won more regular season games than the Dodgers and won 6 straight against them in the regular season because the Dodgers are a machine in the fall.
Speaking of machines, how about that Denver Bronco offense in the fourth quarter there, DBro? That was kind of wild there. Did the Giants lose that game or did the Broncos win that game?
I think the Giants lost that game. The extra point and everything happening, that's the way I'm going to take it in.
Extra points, plural.
Yeah,
it was more than
you're
one.
Not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong, Joey. But I think the bigger takeaway is, dude, Jackson Dart, baby. Holy
bad
crap.
Pick.
Talk about a franchise changer, man.
Bad pick there. Bad management by Brian Daboll, too, in that scenario, too. There were a lot of, look, you just keep punting the football, and you play the clock, and you just,
There's still a team learning how to win, man.
And if you're the Giants, you still feel better than you did when Russell Wilson was playing quarterback. So that's a big takeaway there. We got a lot of takeaways. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, too, including the waiver wire pickup of the week. We've got a million teams on bye in Week 8, too. We're going to talk about those teams and, of course, get you all the names that you need. But before we do all of that, we've got a winner of our fantasy football belt. And once again, our producers continue to give me things that they want me to say on air. So if you have a crazy name on YouTube, there's a good chance you're winning one of these at some point. So I want to send out congratulations. Hello. Congratulations to Rondae Atomic PR. I want to Google it to find out what Rondae Atomic PR is. It's a public relations firm. What are we doing here? But Rondae Atomic PR, you are the winner of the mailbag. The mailbag. You're winner of the Fantasy Football Championship belt from Trophy Smack. Hit us up at mailbag@fantasypros.com with your mailing address, screenshot of your YouTube account while you're logged in. And once we confirm that, we'll get that prize shipped out to you right away. Again, congrats to Rondae Atomic PR. So there you go. Also, when one giveaway goes away, another one takes its place, and this time it's going to be the Perpetual Fantasy Football Trophy, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware. This is your shot to win this bad boy. It's gorgeous, black trophy. It comes with the Perpetual base, so you can engrave your league champion every single year. It's not just a prize. It's a piece of history, everybody. So how do you win it? You like this video, you subscribe to the channel, you drop your comments below, that's it. And of course, we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So make sure you ring that bell till it goes ding so we can send you a notification that you're the winner and you can collect your prize. The prize of the waiver wire this week, all I wanted all year was for Kyle Monangai to eventually become the David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. That's it. That was my hope when he got drafted. It was my hope in August when I was drafting him everywhere. And it was my hope when even this past week, when I was tempted to drop him, and I did not. And I still have him in all those leagues. And I'm very happy to say that because Kyle Monangai is our waiver wire ad of the week this week. Only 12% rostered, and I account for about 11.5% of that 12. I just want everybody to understand that. So Kyle Monangai yesterday in that game against the Saints, he doubled almost his carry volume from any other game. The highest he had was 7. Yesterday was 13 for 81 and a touchdown. If that doesn't scream David Montgomery, I don't know what does. So Pat, I'm very excited today because I don't have to spend any FAAB on him. And when you look ahead to the bye weeks, oh man, it's tough out there in the running back streets. I think he's a viable RB2 this week as a start, period. End of story. That's my thought process. But what is your take on Kyle Monangai, Pat?
Yeah, it isn't a backfield takeover in Chicago,
No.
Joe. DeAndre Swift did play more snaps than Kyle
Absolutely.
Monangai on Sunday. Swift outsnapped Monangai 37-31, got more touches. He outtouched Monangai 20-15, but Sunday was the most heavily involved we have seen Kyle Monangai this year. The Bears went run heavy on a windy day in Chicago, and Monangai had 13 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, plus 2 catches for 13 yards on 3 targets. Monangai is just on a really nice trajectory. And while, yeah, like I can't confidently recommend him as a starter this week, even in a good Week 8 matchup against the Ravens, I do think Monangai is a worthwhile investment. And you probably could get away with starting him in a 16 bye week this week because of that matchup. And Ben Johnson trusts the rookie to be on the field. Like Monangai has played between 28% and 45% of the Bears' offensive snaps in every game since week 2. He's the clear number 2 in this backfield. He's wiped Roschon Johnson off the fantasy map. And maybe there's a chance he keeps cutting into Swift's touches. Like DeAndre Swift has had 2 straight big games, but he hasn't been a very efficient runner during his time in Chicago. He was dead last among qualifying running backs in rushing yards over expected per carry last season. And he was bottom 10 in that stat through the first 5 games of this season before he got hot. So at a minimum, Monangai has handcuff value, but yesterday he produced some standalone value too. And in the spring, Joe, we spent some time talking about Kyle Monangai on the Fantasy Pros Dynasty podcast. I don't think anyone who listens to that show would accuse me of bandwagon hopping. If I said that Scott Bogman and I liked Kyle Monangai, we were pretty open about that. He was really productive and hard to tackle at Rutgers. One thing Monangai always gives you is effort. Like this dude just runs hard and does not want to go down. And he's also really shifty in traffic. And now he's even catching a few passes here and there, which he really didn't do at Rutgers. So I think he's worth a 15% bid. I might go to 20% if DeAndre Swift. I don't know if I
Swift
want
went down, Monangai would have to just be the rocket ship guy.
Yes, rocket ship for sure. Yeah, and even if DeAndre Swift stays in the same role all year and Monangai is simply the 1B in a committee, like I can live with that on a 15%, 20% spend.
Okay, and to Pat's point, Derek, when we're talking about Monangai, it is just October. He brought up the blustery winds of Chicago and Soldier Field and all that stuff. But there's more of that to come in November and December, right? So I think that's also something to recognize that as we go on, we're going to have to be a little bit more reliant potentially, especially at home and especially in that division, right? When they're playing some of these tough teams where you're going to have to run the football. And Monangai, like maybe this was the turning point of that new usage. We were hoping, and it's funny because the theme of today's show is the process we've had with him, with Brashard Smith, we're going to talk about too, has always been good. We always say, hey, pick up these guys, stash these guys, keep these guys. And from the roster percentage, it's clear that nobody listened to us. But at the same point, last week, coming out of the bye, we were hoping it would change. It didn't, and a lot of us got discouraged. But all of a sudden now, a little bit different story. And with the upcoming schedule, weather, all that stuff in Chicago, maybe more Monangai is ahead of us.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, your guy, my guy, Kyle Monangai. I mean, I'll echo a lot of Pat's thoughts here with not only liking him as a prospect. My comp for him was Zach Stacy coming out. Squatty, bowling ball, just like he is going to break tackles and give you all the effort that he's got. But the other part about this, guys, is Caleb Williams is not playing great football. So we're seeing a little bit of a metamorphosis of this offense, too. If they're going to be more run-heavy and lean on the rushing attack, like they can do that in the next few games where Monangai is going to give you flex value. Like this last week, dude. I mean, like he almost equaled Swift in snaps and routes with 36-31, 13-10. And the upcoming matchups, like you can run on Baltimore, you can run on Cincinnati and the New York Giants. So yes, flex value and maybe more to come in this offense.
All right. So as Pat also mentioned before, we've got 6 teams on a bye. So the Arizona Cardinals, they're gone. Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, Las Vegas Raiders, the Rams, and the Seattle Seahawks. So if you've got pieces of those teams, guess what? You're going to be missing those pieces in Week 8 in the NFL. Why they have to do this to us, I don't know. It's very frustrating. We did fun math on the Waiver show with Jake Seeley, the little short version one where we get his takes. Go watch that as well. It's a really good show. Where we said, if 32 teams divided by 8, that's 4. So 4 teams on a bye every week, that would be much more manageable, I feel like, as opposed to these 6 or 8 teams on one bye week. Why do we have to do this to ourselves? I don't know. But because there's so many guys missing, I want to talk about, usually we go right to the running backs and right to the wide receivers and the streamers here. But instead, I want to talk about two guys here. The first being Joe Flacco, who is going through quite a renaissance right now. And it's been very fun. He's been wondering, where's Ja'Marr Chase been my whole career? That's what he's wondering. It was an incredible win. Once again, cha-ching, if you're watching Betting Pros, Joey P gave you the cover there for the Cincinnati Bengals at home. So that's 2 weeks in a row. Thursday Night Football, we got the cover of the home team. And also the winning outright, too. Got that as well for both weeks. So let's talk about this here and what Joe Flacco's done in a short period of time, DBro, because obviously we're not getting Jared Goff next week, no Trevor Lawrence this week. Mm-hmm. You're missing Matthew Stafford this week. So if you're in those deeper leagues, I mean, Sam Darnold and Superflex leagues especially, too. I mean, Joe Flacco's rostered in a lot of those, but only 15% rostered totally on Sleeper, which I found surprisingly low based on what he did the previous week walking into the building in just a couple days. So what's your take on Flacco here going forward and his viability?
I mean, he's going to be, top 15 quarterback rest of the way, maybe fringe QB1 value if he keeps chucking it like this with Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. And, I mean, there's a few certainties. We know Cincinnati's going to throw the freaking ball. We know their defense is terrible. Flacco really surprised me. I mean, I was more skeptical than some, with him entering this offense. I knew the weapons were there, but the offensive line being horrible. Do we actually have Chase Brown viability? All things are just, they're hitting on all cylinders, dude. So he's absolutely, and that roster percentage is going to go up. After these last two games, he was QB6 in fantasy this last week. I mean, considering how many teams we have on a bye this week, I mean, he's going to be rosterable. I'm guessing he's probably going to push over 50% considering all the quarterbacks on bye, and they get the Jets and the Bears over the next 2 weeks. So Joe Flacco, fringe QB1, or at least over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, too, with that Jets game, Pat, is that, the Jets obviously are a team that is just completely quit. I mean, terrible. It's just, there's bad teams and then there's bad teams that fight. And, this is just a bad team. They've got nothing left in there.
Fighting Aaron Glenn.
What's your take here on Flacco going forward? Again, matchups next 2 weeks, pretty good as well for him.
In his first two games with the Bengals, he's thrown 92 passes. 53 of the 92 have gone either Ja'Marr Chase or T. Higgins.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, if I was quarterback of the Bengals, that's what I would do. But how is that really different than what Joe Burrow did?
Right, that's exactly it.
It's not,
Joe Flacco understands the assignment, and he is now doing what we hoped Joe Burrow would be doing for Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. And Joe Flacco's just doing the late career Joe Flacco thing. He shows up as a hired gun, throws the ball around like crazy, produces yardage and touchdowns, but also throws interceptions. And after a while, the interceptions start to mount, and the coaching staff starts to think, "Oh man, I don't know if I can live like
December,
this."
Right?
Should we just should we just dub him Elder Jameis Winston at this point?
So late career Joe Flacco can work out for about 4 to 6 weeks. That has been the window before the mayonnaise starts to turn bad on you. And a 4 to 6 week window might be perfect for the Bengals if Flacco can keep the offense afloat until maybe Joe Burrow rides to the rescue late in the year. And a 4 to 6 window might work out well for fantasy managers too. That would get us to the doorstep of the playoffs. And it's probably best if the people who are using Joe Flacco as a Band-Aid, like me in our Fantasy Pros Company League, because it's a 16-team league, and I was trying to ride with Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback. But those people should probably start seeking another solution long-term at quarterback in time for the playoffs, because you don't want to be dining in Joe Flacco's cafe when the mayo goes bad.
I will say this, though, Pat. He does get another shot against the Ravens on Thanksgiving night. I mean, I want to watch that game so bad. Instead of Madden franchise, I want a new franchise called Flacco, where every year it's just you as Joe Flacco trying to latch on with a team and then ending up somewhere and seeing how good you can be for a couple weeks. And then, you get caught or you get traded or something else happens to you. And you just play Flacco. And he's always on the cover. Joe Flacco's always on the cover with just a different jersey every year. So that's
a couple weeks ago, I noticed that was the Thanksgiving night matchup, and I was thinking, oh, what a bad way to end a Thanksgiving slate. But not now. No, that's looking like a spicy matchup. Flacco against the Ravens. Oh my goodness.
Oh, with Ja'Marr Chase this time. Last couple weeks ago, it didn't work out very well for him, but now it's a different story. Things worked out in week 7 for Oronde Gadsden. I want to talk about him too before we get to the rest of the RB list, because it's a short list this week of running back. But Gadsden, 2 weeks ago, a good game for him against the Miami Dolphins. I think, I didn't want to say it went unnoticed, but kind of unheralded at least. 7 for 8 for 68. But then yesterday, a huge explosion where obviously they were behind and they had to throw the ball more than 50 times. 7 for 9 for 164 and a touchdown. Pat, Gadsden is tricky because, once again, this is a player who is a young player, rookie. Maybe he's starting to emerge in this offense. Maybe it's also signs of life too, because Keenan Allen's an older player. QJ has not been healthy the last couple of weeks. So in these weeks where things have been a little iffy for the wide receivers there, all of a sudden Gadsden's starting to emerge. So how much can we buy this going forward, and how much should we spend on it going forward?
Well, the Chargers fell into that big hole against the Colts and had a play from behind game script, and Justin Herbert wound up throwing 55 passes. And I think most weeks when the game script is a little more conventional, it's going to be pretty hard to squeeze adequate fantasy production out of Gadsden if all of Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen are healthy. And Dynasty people who have Gadsden should be excited.
Okay.
I just don't think he has a lot of appeal in redraft, quite honestly. And I think it would probably be a mistake to spend significant FAAB on Gadsden this week.
All right. Let's get your take here, DBro, because next week you're going to have no McBride, no Laporta, no Bowers again, not that you had him anyway. And no Barner too, if you were streaming him. So there's some guys missing at tight end. Is Gadsden a replacement at 11% rostered for any of those for you next week?
He's definitely a replacement. And I mean, considering he's only 3% rostered, I'm not telling people to go out there and, spend the rest of your FAAB, but you probably can get him for 5 to 6% of your FAAB. And I mean, guys, he could flirt with tight end 1 type of production rest of the season. Look at just the state of the tight end position in fantasy just in general. Do you feel any better playing Mark Andrews on a weekly basis and a lot of these other guys that are around that ilk of low end tight end 1? Gadsden could easily do that. Considering and to Patty's point, yes, it's going to be volatile, but that's a lot of tight ends. We should be buying into a Chargers offense that's second in neutral passing rate though. And if Keenan Allen does take a step back, Gadsden could take the step forward that he's done the last 2 weeks. This guy's had a 21% target share, a 16% target share. He's produced top 12 weeks in fantasy over the last 2 weeks. And I'm not saying he keeps that up, but I mean, I'm also not going to dismiss that he could flirt with tight end 1 production because the Chargers defense is not playing good. This is a pass heavy offense, and he's arguably tied to a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. So I see a little bit rosier projection, especially this week. I mean, Minnesota's given up the 10th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to tight end. So he could be a tight end 1 again this week.
All right, let's take a quick moment to shout out the sponsor of our show, and that's Hard Rock Bet. Today's show is brought to you by Hard Rock Bet Sports app. And if you haven't already, make sure you try it out, because if you bet $5, you get 150 in bonus bets when you win. So you get your winnings and all of the 150 in bonus bets. That's a pretty good deal. So download the Hard Rock Bet app today to make your first deposit and start winning. They got the boosts every single week too, the parlay boosts, the rewards, all kinds of fun things. Download the Hard Rock Bet Sports app and get going. All right, let's talk about some other guys here on the waiver wire at the running back position. Brashard Smith, 9% rostered. So again, a lot of frustration there. So DBro, yesterday, 14 for 39 in a blowout, and I mean blowout victory against the Las Vegas Raiders. He also caught 5 of his 5 targets for 42 yards. Is Brashard Smith the new Jerick McKinnon, or is there something better there?
Oh, man, I wish I could tell you that there's something better there. Andy Reid looks like he is just definitively okay, Kareem Hunt did get banged up in this game. He came back.
That was my follow-up. Well,
yep.
Hunt is
so
a little tricky
Hunt's
now,
banged up a little bit. I hope that this backfield turns more for Brashard Smith. I don't know if it's going to. I think the Jerick McKinnon role can be had, and that's kind of what he's operating in. Maybe a little bit more diluted version of that, but going forward, maybe he offers you flex value. I will say that in this blowout, 13 of his 28 snaps did come in garbage time. He did have the 19 touches and 81 total yards. All of those things are good, and he looked good in the passing game. So for a team that's going to be throwing at a top 3 clip for the rest of the season, in PPR formats, can he be a viable low-end flex play for you moving forward? And maybe there's a little bit more meat on the bone if Casey doesn't trade for a running back at the deadline. It's possible, man. I will say, after holding on to him for so long, it did hurt me that all this happened, and I dropped him in so many leagues where I had crunches for flexes this week. So I'll be picking him right back up.
Pat, should people be picking up Brashard Smith here? I feel like they should, just on the principle of being in this offense, right? Kansas City starting to look a lot more like Kansas City, Russia Rice back, and all of a sudden, like, things just open up. I think we've seen what Pacheco is, and it's a little uninspiring at this point. I'm just going to put it out there like that. That's my takeaway from Pacheco. It's just not getting there for me from a fantasy perspective. Whereas I look at Smith and I go, okay, catch the football. He's got a little bit more explosiveness, I think, than Pacheco has. Do you think, especially this week, is he viable as a spot starting running back potentially?
He is if Kareem Hunt is going to miss extended time. And we want to see more about the status of Kareem Hunt. I think it's an ankle issue. If it turns out to be a high ankle sprain and Hunt is going to be out 3 to 5 weeks, this could be the foot in the door for Brashard Smith. And maybe he can provide flex value in one of the NFL's best offenses.
All right. Well, the Titans got a foot in their ass last week from the New England Patriots. My New England Patriots. So there you go. And that leaves us to Tyjae Spears, who Pat is the guy that we've been talking about stashing to and continuing to look at. He is up to 41% rostered on Sleeper, just 30% still on Yahoo. With the trade deadline looming, again, I think Pollard and Breece Hall are the two guys that everybody should be targeting and looking and saying these are the guys that make the most sense to be moving somewhere else, in which case a guy like Isaiah Davis becomes really interesting to be stashing this week, and then potentially Spears as well. So let's talk about Davis and Spears real quick. Your thoughts on those guys. I don't know how viable you feel about starting either of them. Obviously, that's probably not what we're talking about, but this is more long-term projectability here.
Yeah, a trade would really open things up for either guy. And obviously, like a Breece Hall trade, yeah, it's not great to have a running back on a terrible team, but you're getting at least RB2 or flex value if you have the person who's the clear lead back on a terrible team. So the Spears Pollard thing is kind of interesting because, I mean, it looks like it's going to be pretty close to a workload split. And we were sort of hoping that Tyjae Spears would be the passing down back because that might have value on a team like the Titans who are perpetually trailing and in chase mode. But late in this game against the Patriots on Sunday, when the Titans were in 2-minute drill mode, it was actually Tony Pollard in the game rather than Spears. And I was actually forced to use Pollard in a PPR league, and he had a bunch of short catches at the end of the game that barely salvaged what was headed toward being a pretty bad day for him. So Spears should be rostered. I just don't know if there's a lot of upside, barring an injury to Pollard or a trade.
Okay. Your thoughts on Spears here, and if you want to throw Davis in that conversation too, DBro.
Yeah, I mean, I think both these guys, they are the trade deadline. I said this all in Discord this weekend. I said Spears and Davis are your trade deadline lottery tickets. Like, they're the two guys where their backfield mates could get moved. They're both on terrible teams. And like Fitzy laid out here, RB2, flex-worthy value moving forward. And especially like Spears, like I'm not enamored of buying any part of the Tennessee Titans offense, but again, volume can get him there in the pass game utility if anything happens to Pollard too. So pick up both these guys.
Pat is, when you have a 16 bye week, it's really tough to be dropping guys necessarily, especially the running back position. But is there anybody that you just think you want to just cut bait with at the RB position? Like, do you drop a Zach Charbonnet? Like, if you just need to stream somebody this week, are we into that sort of territory?
I don't want to drop Charbonnet because Kenneth Walker has a pretty extensive injury history. And if he goes down, Charbonnet is the only game in town all of a sudden.
Fair.
But I think you could drop Kareem Hunt, especially with this injury. You could drop Michael Carter, who it looks like is not going to have that prominent a role in a sort of limited Cardinals offense. Maybe Kendre Miller, who just got hurt. I think the light is quickly dimming for Jaden Blue. And Ollie Gordon, even if something happened to Devon Achane, I just don't know if Ollie Gordon would offer a lot of standalone value.
I don't understand that one, Pat. I just don't, I don't know what Mike McDaniel's thinking. Like, just run the football, man. Like, you were a team that ran the football so well, and it just feels like they don't want to run the football. They can't run I don't know.
And by the way, I guess there were probably a lot of people who picked up Emmanuel Wilson last minute, thinking Josh Jacobs might not play. Emmanuel Wilson is pretty droppable.
And with good theory, too. That news came out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, it was a Saturday night. Oh, yeah, by the way, Josh Jacobs might not play. What? What are you talking about? Maybe he got sick waiting on that plane for 7 hours for his takeoff. Maybe that was the issue. All right, let's get to the wide receivers. Let's start with Kayshon Boutte of the New England Patriots. Up to 43% week over week, 39% on Yahoo, but it's still not enough. the evolution of Drake May, I mean, Fitzy, you talked at length last week about making sure that you picked up the Boutte and you gave it a place on your roster. And I feel like if you listened, it was a good deal and he was flex worthy. I understand it was only, 2 targets, but 55 yards on those 2 targets, 2 catches, and a touchdown. And he keeps being that guy that finds the end zone there. So that's 3 touchdowns now for him in the last 2 weeks. So again, as May continues to evolve, it feels like there's more room for not just the Diggs, but also Kayshon Boutte as well to eat in this offense from a fantasy perspective.
Evolve is a good word to use here, Joe. You can't count on target volume for Kayshon Boutte just yet, but the quality of targets from Drake May is outstanding. And Boutte has been so insanely efficient that the lower target volume isn't crushing him. Like, he's averaging 14.2 yards per target, which is insane. And he scored a touchdown on 20% of his catches. 20 catches, 4 touchdowns. So I don't really want to pay a lot for this version of Boutte, but the hope is that he starts getting more targets because he's only 23 and it looks like Kayshon Boutte is turning out to be a pretty good player. So
DBro, I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's just, I think it's a good time to catch the elevator on the ground floor.
All right, so Boutte for you in this scenario too, Pat points out, look, it's been very efficient, which is great. Mm-hmm. That's what you're looking for. And I still think there's room for more volume. Yep. And there's going to be a lot more highly contested games here as the Pat season goes on. But what you've seen out of Drake May is, again, just cool, calm, and collected every single week, just more and more getting towards that level of that top tier quarterback play. And once you have that established, then all of a sudden all the pieces around it start to benefit. I mean, I'm never going to hold my breath for Travion Henderson, obviously, in this offense. I don't know what we're doing there, but that's fine. I mean, beggars can't be choosers at this point.
Yeah, man. I've pushed back against Pat with the waiver wire article with Boutte over the last few weeks just because of the volume problems for him in this offense. But I mean, look, the flex viability is definitely there and the matchups are there. And I mean, we should be wanting to buy into cheap pieces of an offense that is being headed by what, I mean, come on, guys, like possible MVP candidate in Drake May if the Patriots go out and win like 10 to 11 games and take the East or at least put up a fight.
Well, every year there's a team that goes from worst to first in the NFL. Yep. And I hate to break it to people, but right now the Patriots are in first place. And they were the last place team. And I can't think of a last place team from last year besides the Patriots that has a shot at doing that, to be honest.
The only other thing I'll add on Boutte is that I wouldn't rule it out, and this is why I think 5 to 6% of your FAAB is probably about right. I also would not rule out the Patriots making a trade for a wide receiver at the deadline, so I don't want to go overboard on betting on Boutte at this point too.
That would surprise me. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they stay as constant.
You don't think they would bring Jacoby Myers back? You don't?
That would maybe, but that would be to put him there in the slot. Look, I don't think that's a terrible one. I think that's the one guy, but again, his health in question a little bit too, or maybe it's not, and
maybe it's not. And it's the trade.
Maybe it's not, and it's the trade. We'll see. So there you go. All right, let's continue on as the wide receiver position. So we got, again, these are a lot of streaming possibility dark guys. So I want to cluster them in a grouping and talk about them. So Xavier Legette, 13% rostered for the Carolina Panthers. Now, Legette is going to be possibly playing with Andy Dalton next time we see him, depending on the health here. Again, it's only Monday morning as I'm recording this. We don't have a lot of clarity on the health of Bryce Young. We have Malik Washington from Miami here with the Waddle injury now. But again, do we want to have anything to do with the Miami offense at this point? You had Tua benched. You have things falling apart at the seams. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. It's a whole thing. Then you have Parker Washington, depending on which Washington you like. Parker Washington balled out a little bit yesterday in garbage time against the Rams, but here's the problem. He's on a bye this week, and then BTJ with that injury, we don't know really how long that's going to be as of yet. And one more guy I'll throw in this mix too from Tennessee is Chimere DK, who also with Calvin Ridley out was able to get on the field a little bit more. So DBro, when you're looking at Legette, Washington, DK, and of course the other Parker Washington, all the Washingtons, do you want any of these Washingtons or anybody else on your side here as you're looking ahead to this week? Because we are missing a ton of guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. you're missing. You're going to be missing all the guys from the Lions. The Jags we already talked about. BTJ not there, and all of a sudden Travis Hunter has a good game and he's not available. So the Rams are missing Puka already because of injury, and Devontae Adams. The Seahawks, JSN has carried fantasy teams. I'm not saying any of these guys are going to carry you, but can you stream any of them this upcoming week that have appeal?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to attend the Washington family reunion. I think both those guys, like looking at Malik this week, I think low-end PPR, flex value, even despite quarterback, the volume was there last week. I mean, like, it wasn't pretty, but he did get a 25% target share, so that is viable as far as in flex terms with this many teams on a bye. And the same thing for Parker Washington. Like, go out and throw like a $1 to $2 bid, you might get him. And look, we're all still kind of in the win as of recording this with BTJ's injury. Whether that turns out to be something or nothing, you could sneak up through the bye. Like, I don't see anybody overpaying for either one of these guys.
All right, Pat, I know it's not the most exciting group necessarily here, but there's anybody that stands out to you and say, okay, if I've got waiver priorities or if I'm using FAAB here, I want to go a little bit extra because of maybe the matchup or maybe something you see. Obviously, Parker Washington not going to be that helps you this week, but could be a guy that if you have BTJ, maybe you want to stash anyway. So DK, Washington, Malik Washington, and then Leggett.
Parker Washington is interesting if you are going to lose wide receivers in week 9. Now, obviously, we need more info on Brian Thomas Jr.'s shoulder injury. But yeah, if BTJ is going to miss extended time, Washington might be playable. And you could probably get him inexpensively this week because the Jaguars are going to be on bye. But then they come out of their bye with a week 9 matchup against the Raiders. And that is a 4-team bye week. And Parker Washington is maybe going to be a pretty good start in week 9. So he interests me. There is PPR value to what Malik Washington might be able to give you if, a 5-catch, 37-yard game. It's got to be full point PPR for him to be worth chasing. Two guys I'm not chasing. I'm not chasing Xavier Leggett. Hasn't produced more than 31 yards in any game up until this past week. And I suspect that Leggett only had 11 targets this week because Tedero McMillan was up against Sauce Gardner most of the day and wasn't getting open regularly. And Shamir DK, he had the 3rd most snaps and routes among the Titans receivers yesterday. And when Calvin Ridley comes back, all of a sudden DK is the 4th receiver in one of the NFL's worst offenses.
All right, let's talk about Darnell Mooney and Troy Franklin, two guys that Derek Brown just can't quit, at least not yet. So I know Franklin had a touchdown here. Let's talk about it, Pat, before we let Derek go on and on about his 2 favorite players in the NFL. So he only was 3 of 10 for 19 yards. Now the touchdown kind of saved the day here for him a little bit. It's his 2nd of the year. Is Franklin a guy worth holding on to at this point or even rostering at this point too? You see he's up to about 30%. Actually, both these guys around 30%. Darnell Mooney's at 36%. And then Mooney, another one too, where last night, I think a little disappointing look there for the Atlanta Falcons, who had been riding high. It's kind of the peaks and valleys of the Falcons. Like, you just don't know which Falcons team you're going to get offensively. Sometimes at home, they look like, league winners, and other times on the road, they look like they're completely confused. So what were your thoughts on Mooney and Franklin this week of those two guys to be aggressive on for week 8?
I'm interested in Mooney because it's a skinny target tree in Atlanta. It's Drake London, it's Kyle Pitts, and Darnell Mooney, and that's about it. And, of course, Bijan out of the backfield.
Right.
But Mooney, last year, I believe he played like 93% of the Falcons' offensive snaps. He is going to be on the field playing a lot. I'm less interested in Troy Franklin because you've got Sutton as the one dependable guy, the one dependable pass catcher in the Denver offense. And then things really get chopped up amongst Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Evan Ingram. Pat Bryant is starting to get more snaps. It's just, and like the random tight end, Adam Troutman or Lucas Krull or whoever it is. So it's just, it's kind of a frustrating split. And I don't know if you can feel good starting anyone not named Cortland Sutton in any given week from that Denver pass catching group.
Well, in terms of random scoring, it was that Rams opening game there in the morning yesterday that blew my mind. I can't remember the guy's name. Mumfield? Is that his name?
Yep. Kanata Mumfield.
Yeah, Kanata Mumfield. I was like, they didn't even have a graphic for him. I kept waiting. So I'm on live on TV and I'm trying to do the actual here we go. And you have a score here. And I'm looking, I'm like, well, that's not Tutu Atwell. Like, who the heck is that guy? And then I'm waiting for a graphic. NFL Network's got no graphic. I've never seen that my whole life where they didn't have a graphic for the guy who scored a touchdown. Wild stuff there. So Kanata Mumfield, good job for you.
Had to tip to Matt Waldman, who got Kanata Mumfield on my radar with his like he had some pretty flattering things to say about him earlier, like as a guy who could stick. I don't know if he's ever going to be a guy we're chasing in waivers. But
no, well, let's not chase him this week. Let's not do that. Especially they're on a bye anyway, so nobody's chasing that. So I know, Derek, you love Mooney, you love Franklin. So make your case again for them this week, especially because you are going to be missing a lot of guys. So there is some streamability here. Probably an upside from the last group we talked about, and that's why I want to kind of sandwich them around, because I want to kind of almost dispel the notion of some of those other guys where you're like, well, I don't know if this is a good situation. These guys have a higher floor, I think, Franklin and Mooney, than any of the other guys we talked about earlier besides Boutte.
And offer you ceiling, too. I mean, look, like, I'm not telling everybody to stream these guys, to flex them every single week, but they both have fantastic matchups coming up this week. I mean, Darnell Mooney gets the freaking Dolphins, dude. They've given up the 10th most PPR points per target to perimeter wide receivers. He didn't get a massive target share, but still led the team with 68 receiving yards. So Darnell Mooney is absolutely firmly in play for flex positions this week. And the same thing for Troy Franklin, man. Like, the Denver offense is confounding. Sean Payton is Sean Paytoning at a level that is just wild to see these days. But there's one thing that is definitive. He is hell-bent on forcing passing volume through Bo Nix, regardless of whether he's playing good or he's not. And Franklin, the snap share is not great, but he's out there for the routes. He's not playing all the rundowns and stuff like that. He's still at a 71% route share coming into this game. 10 targets and a 20% target share plays up in any week. I know he didn't do a ton with it. He saved his day with the touchdown, but dude, him and Marvin Mims, even in deeper formats, they get the freaking Dallas Cowboys this week, guys. And then after they face the Texans, then they get the dang Raiders. We were just talking about Parker Washington going against the Raiders. Yeah, Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims can both put up points against the Cowboys and the Raiders moving forward.
Pat, you made an earlier point about Emmanuel Wilson. A lot of guys, went to the waiver wire, picked him up, and then turned around and had to drop him. So to that point, Jordan Whittington, Luke McCaffrey, probably a lot of two guys. A lot of folks who were going and running to the waiver wire to pick up. Obviously not too useful, so I would think those guys were all droppable. Anybody else in that wide receiver position droppable for you?
You know, Joe, I think you could probably drop Kendrick Bourne, and I hate to say it because he had those back-to-back 142-yard games.
Joe wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, George Kittle came back, didn't have any catches because he was mostly run blocking, but obviously George Kittle's going to be prominently involved. Ricky Pearsall's on the way back. We probably see him this coming week. Juwan Jennings is still there, and Christian McCaffrey is getting a ton of targets. And Kendrick Bourne was really connecting with Mac Jones. It's probably going to be Brock Purdy back this week, and we don't know if Bourne's going to have the same sort of chemistry with Purdy that he had with Mac Jones. So I think Kendrick Bourne is actually droppable. And I would also drop, I know a lot of people were trying to coast on that 3-touchdown game he had early in the season, but I don't think there's any value to Trey Tucker, and I'm always kind of surprised at how high his rostership level is.
Well, he is a top 30 wide receiver fantasy
on that one day. One day.
Like, that's what people look at. They say, "Oh, he's a 30th ranked wide receiver." A good chunk of it.
To your point, Joey, too, I think Tutu, Jordan Whittington, and also like Chris Moore, people could drop all of them too.
Yeah, we're all holding our breath for that Jaden Daniels news too. He's going for an MRI.
Oh man, that tackle too, like bringing him into the ground and the guy like rolls over. Like, dude, we got to cut this out of the NFL. Guys just get hurt for all this crap.
I can't believe Sky Moore almost had. Actually, he had one catch for 15 yards. That's more than Kendrick Bourne's 2 for 14. Sky Moore, ladies and gentlemen. Look at an appearance on Sunday Night Football. All right, let's talk about some of the streamers this week. DBro, kick us off with your streaming quarterback for Week 8.
Dude, I'm just riding the flames, Jackson Dart, baby. Like, I get he's going against the Eagles, but this is the same team that he put up a QB3 performance in fantasy in Week 7. So, last week he was QB3. Against the last time he played the Eagles, he was also QB3 in fantasy. So, rushing equity, Jackson Dart just living in the flames, baby. Let's go.
All right, who are you living in the flames with? A QB, Pat Fitzmaurice in Week 8.
Joe Flacco against the Jets. Ride the Flacco train until it goes over the cliff.
Let's go. All the Flacco. All right, Fitz. If we like Flacco in that game, then I want to stick in that game because we know one thing about the Cincinnati Bengals. They're no bueno against tight ends. We saw that on full display on Thursday Night Football. Every tight end was eating. So here's the thing. Is Mason Taylor like the easy streaming tight end? But is that anything easy with the Jets?
I think the Jets are probably changing quarterbacks this week,
Yep.
Joe. Even though Tyrod Taylor didn't play well himself when he
I was
came
going to
in
say it
for
wasn't like
Justin
Taylor came
Fields.
in.
No.
Play better than Fields. I'll give him that, though.
Yeah. So
God.
if it's Tyrod, I think Mason Taylor becomes usable. And you said it, Joe. The matchup against the Bengals is so good. Like 3 different Steelers combined for 4 tight end touchdowns against the Bengals last Thursday.
It's wild.
Craziness. All right, a streaming tight end for you here, DBro, this week.
Yeah, I already made my case for him. Oronde Gadsden, Minnesota's a top 12 matchup for him, and I think the Chargers are going to be throwing the ball again.
All right, how about a defense you want to stream this week, Derek?
The Atlanta Falcons, they're blitzing. They're able to pressure the quarterback. We don't know who is under center for Miami, and it doesn't really matter because Tua's not good, and Quinn Ewers is no better.
Yeah, they held the 49ers to 20 points, too. Atlanta's definitely, look, we kind of made some little jokes about, man, they really sure went hard on the defense in the draft. Well, I guess it's paying off right now.
Raheem Morris is making us all eat it.
Defense. Yeah, good for him, man. All right, Indianapolis versus Tennessee, Pat. That's where you're living for the money here, and certainly a good matchup here against the Tennessee Titans for the Indianapolis Colts, who look like world beaters right now.
Yeah, the Titans have been the best possible matchup. Cam Ward has thrown 5 interceptions, lost 5 fumbles, and has already taken an NFL high 30 sacks. And the Colts have been a good fantasy defense, so play them in this fantastic matchup.
Okay, Fitzy, give me a kicker for this week because we have to.
Let's stick with the Colts. Michael Badgley. Colts are averaging more than 30 points a game. Good chance they top 30 points against the Titans this week.
And DBro, let's get one more kicker in there for this week.
Yeah, I'll just give you a kicker so I don't get fined here. Matt Prater going against Carolina. He's had 9 fantasy points at least in 3 games this year, so...
All right. Now, the waiver article is up on fantasypros.com. The waiver rankings are up there as well. It's a big bye week, so make sure you get after it. And use the tools on the app like Waiver Central. So download the app wherever you get your apps, or just go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook. Sync your leagues for free and get the waiver advice you need on who to add, who to drop in this big bye week in the NFL. It's going to be really ugly out there. Don't make a decision without watching the shows, without reading the articles, looking at the ranks, and using the tools. Don't be a tool. Use Waiver Central right now. All right, top 5 waiver ads of the week. Fitzy, kick us off with the top 5.
All right, I'm going to leave Jackson Dart off this list, even though he's available in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues, because I don't want to see how the smart aleck comments about he's not available in my league. So let's start.
That is inevitable. That is the inevitable. I don't know what leagues you guys are playing in. Apparently, I'm playing in 50% of them. Because, look, we're in sharp leagues. We play in all these expert leagues with all these people who do this for a living. We get it. We are not who we always do this show for, okay? We're doing it for the masses. Keep that in mind, everybody. And the masses are representing the percentage of rostership for these players. So Pat is hitting a nerve here with all of us here. Good for you, Pat.
Yes.
Way to stand up for the percentages. I'm a math guy.
Sling that
Let's
mayo,
go.
Patty. Let's
the math
go.
is mathing today, and it's mathing hard on the YouTube comments. Go ahead, Pat.
So Kyle Monangai is at the top. At number 2, I'm going to go with Tyler Algier, who is still widely available. He's a golden handcuff to Bijan Robinson with standalone value because he gets double-digit carries most weeks. Falcons are run heavy, and they run the ball very effectively. Kayshon Boutte is number 3. Joe Flacco is number 4. And if you can't get Joe Flacco, he's going to be cheap this week because he's on bye. Sam Darnold, who's just been terrific this season.
You know what I'd like to see Tyler Algier next year? Houston Texans. Houston Texans. Let's get a better offensive line. And Houston Texans, go out there and get Tyler Algier. How about that? Little physicality, huh? Little physicality. Nick Chubb is not what he used to be. I don't know if Woody Marks is really the thing necessarily. We know Joe Mixon is not going to be a Houston Texan no matter what next year. So, yeah. All right, DBro, give us your top 5 before we get out of here.
I'm riding with Patty. Kyle Monangai is the top pickup of the week. And really, with so many teams on bye, I'm leaning into flex plays this week. So Kayshon Boutte is number 2. Troy Franklin is 3. And considering with all these teams on a bye, McBride is on a bye. Sam Laporta is on a bye. If you were streaming or waiting for Brock Bowers, he's out this week. I'm going Mason Taylor and Oronde Gadsden at 4 and 5.
Okay. And by the way, boys, I know we played in a lot of leagues together. Kyle Monangai's not available in those leagues. So there you go. I just dropped your YouTube comment. You know why? Because I already have all the shares. That's right. All right, everybody, make sure you, again, use the tools. And, of course, drop your comments below. Who's your waiver wire ad of the week? Subscribe to the channel. You might win yourself some free stuff. This week's big Trophy Smack giveaway is up for grabs. It could be you, especially if you have a crazy YouTube name. That seems to be the way things go here on the program.
Make a burner accounts.
And if you need more help on the waiver wire, don't fear, because after tonight's Monday Night Doubleheader, we'll be back on Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel for the waiver wire live stream. Again, don't miss it. Ring that bell till it goes ding for notifications. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Derek Brown and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Happy hunting on the waiver wire.